Have you ever felt completely alone, floating in silence so deep that even your thoughts start to echo back? I thought space was empty. I thought I understood the dark. But that night, something whispered my name through the static. It wasn't my imagination. It wasn't human. Now I can't stop wondering, what if the universe isn't just watching us? What if it's waiting for us? The Lost Signal, a bedtime story from the edge of the stars. Tell me, what time is it where you are? Because up here, time doesn't exist anymore. It's quiet now, quieter than silence itself. Sometimes I think space doesn't just hold silence. It creates it. It folds it, layers it, and lets it settle inside you until even your heartbeat feels too loud. My name doesn't matter, not out here among the endless stars. Names fade like whispers into the cosmic wind. But if you must call me something, call me Lior, the wanderer of forgotten moons. I've been traveling alone for what feels like 1,000 dreams. I can't remember when I last saw a sunrise. My ship, the Seraphine, drifts between worlds that no one names anymore. I left my homeworld long ago, searching for something I couldn't define. Maybe peace, maybe forgiveness, or maybe, like all wanderers, I was just running from the gravity of memories that hurt too much to keep. Every night, if you can call it, night when stars burn on every horizon, I float to the observation deck. I turn off the engines, silence every hum, and listen to the breathing of the universe. It's soft, rhythmic, almost like a lullaby. There's a rhythm to space, not of music, but of motion, the steady pulse of galaxies turning, the sigh of stardust as it drifts past my window, the soft hum of my ship's core as it keeps me alive. It feels like sleep, an endless dream, without beginning or end. Sometimes I talk to myself, just to remember the sound of a voice. Other times, I speak to the stars. They never answer, but their silence feels like understanding. Tonight feels different, though. There's something in the void, a shimmer, faint and golden, like the heartbeat of a sleeping sun. I've seen stars die and nebulae born, but this light, this one calls to me. I guide the ship closer, the scanners flicker, the readings blur. It's not a star, not a planet, it's something alive, something moving through the ether, and then I hear it, a voice, not through the comms, not through the speakers, inside me, soft as a sigh, clear as a whisper, traveler of shadows. Why do you wander alone? I freeze. My heart slows. My breath catches. The voice is melodic, like wind through silver leaves. I whisper back, unsure if I'm speaking aloud or just thinking, because I've forgotten where I belong. The light pulses once, gently, then perhaps you will find it where dreams begin, and then it fades. I stare at the stars for a long time after that, wondering if I've finally lost my mind, but there's a warmth inside me now, a soft, quiet glow where the emptiness used to be. When I close my eyes, I see her, not clearly, just a shape, a presence, a being made of light and rain and memory, and she's watching me. The next few cycles pass in a blur of soft routines, checking navigation, refueling the plasma cells, recording logs that no one will read, but each time I sleep, the dream returns, the same light, the same voice. Why do you hide from your heart, Lior? I don't answer, because I don't know. Sleep becomes both my escape and my prison. I wake with the feeling of her voice lingering in the air, like perfume from another world. One night, or whatever passes for night, the ship alarms jolt me awake. Collision alert. A field of debris appears ahead, fragments of something enormous, ancient, not rock, metal, structures, ruins of a civilization that once sailed the stars. Slow the engines, gliding through the wreckage. Strange symbols glow faintly on the broken surfaces. It feels like drifting through the graveyard of dreams. And then, there it is again. That light, the same pulse as before, stronger now. I follow it. My heart beats faster. It leads me to the center of the ruins. A massive sphere, cracked, but glowing faintly. From within, I land the ship, suit up, and step outside. Space is silent, but inside my helmet, I hear the faintest hum. A song, almost. Each step brings me closer until I'm standing before the sphere. I raise my hand to touch it. The surface is warm, impossibly warm, for something in the void. The moment my fingers brush the light, everything disappears. I'm falling through stars, through colors, through sound, through memories. When the world reforms, I'm no longer in my suit. I'm standing barefoot on a glowing plain of blue grass under a lavender sky. 2 moons hang low above the horizon, and in the distance, waterfalls rise upward into the air like reversed rivers. And she's there, the being of light. But now, she's no longer a blur. She's a woman, or something close to it. Her form woven from starlight and shadow. Her eyes are galaxies. Her voice a melody that seems to know my name before I speak it. You came, she says softly. I don't know how, I whisper. You followed your heart. It knows the way, even when your mind does not. I look around. The place feels alive, breathing, pulsing. Where am I? Between worlds, between sleep and waking, you found the whispering realm. Her hand reaches toward mine. Not touch, but energy, meeting energy. Every traveler who loses themselves finds their truth here. If they're brave enough to listen, I want to ask what that means, but my voice fails. Instead, I just listen to the rhythm of her words. It feels like listening to a lullaby sung by the universe itself. The air shimmers around us. She turns and begins to walk through the glowing field, her form trailing sparks of light. I follow. Why me? I ask after a while. Because you dream even when you are awake, she says. Because you feel the loneliness of stars and the beauty of silence. And because your soul has forgotten how to rest. Her words pierce something deep inside me, that aching part that never stops searching, never stops running. We walk until we reach a crystal lake that mirrors the sky perfectly. When I kneel to touch it, the water ripples with light, and I see memories, my home world, my friends, the one I loved and lost before I left. You see, she whispers, you were never lost. You just needed to remember where love once lived. I close my eyes. A single tear floats upward, turning into a spark before vanishing into the air. The sky darkens slightly, stars blooming into the lavender twilight. I feel drowsy, not from exhaustion, but peace. For the first time in years, my heart feels still. She looks at me, smiling softly. Sleep now, Lior. The journey will continue when you wake. I want to protest, to ask who she is, if I'll see her again. But the words melt away as the warmth spreads through me. The world fades. The stars hum. Her voice becomes the rhythm of the cosmos itself. Dream, traveler, dream, until the stars remember your name. And I do. I drift, wrapped in the music of the void, peaceful, weightless, endlessly floating through a sea of shimmering dreams. For the first time since I left home, I sleep When I wake, the stars are different. They look sharper, closer somehow, as if I'm floating not through space, but through a dream that remembers what space used to be. The hum of the seraphine returns slowly, soft vibration beneath my palms. The control panels flicker back to life, each light blinking, as if unsure whether I'm real. I blink too, just to remind myself I am, but her voice lingers. Even now, long after the dream has faded, I can still feel it. The warmth in her tone, the strange comfort in her words. Dream, traveler, dream, until the stars remember your name. I whisper it out loud, letting it hang in the cold air. It sounds softer when spoken, like a lullaby from another lifetime. I run diagnostics, scan the area. The wreckage field is gone, completely gone. Only open void remains, stretched endlessly before me. No ruins, no sphere, no trace of the glowing realm. Just me. For a moment, I think it was all a dream, but then I see it, carved into the glass of the observation window, faint and glowing silver, whispering realm, not written by hand, not etched by tool. It pulses, almost alive, like a memory burned into light itself. I touch the glass. It's warm. Something has changed inside me. Not fear, not confusion, something quieter, something like peace. I spend the next few hours drifting aimlessly, letting the autopilot hum its slow lullaby. The stars pass like raindrops against the void, and I just breathe. Sleep comes in soft waves, not deep, not full, but gentle enough to take me half under. And when I close my eyes, I see her again. She's sitting by the crystal lake from before, her form dimmer now, almost translucent. She looks at me without speaking, and I realize she's waiting. Why do you call me? I whisper in the dream. She smiles, faint and sad. Because your world is changing, traveler. You have awakened something that was meant to sleep. What do you mean? The whispering realm is not just a dream. It's a doorway, and you opened it. I stare at her, trying to understand. To what? To those who remember the music of creation, she says. To the first voices that sang the stars into being. They have been silent for ages, but you heard one. The sky around her begins to tremble, streaks of light curling downward, like falling threads of gold. Now you must choose, she whispers, to wake or to follow the song. Before I can answer, the world shatters like glass. I jolt awake, gasping. The ship's alarms blare, red lights flashing. Something has entered the system. A gravitational anomaly, the readings say. Coordinates, unknown. I look closer. The coordinates pulse in the same rhythm as her light. Coincidence? No. The universe doesn't do coincidences. I set the course. The engines roar to life, glowing in soft blues. Stars bend, space folds, and I am pulled forward. As I travel, I record a log, partly for the ship, mostly for myself. Day unknown, direction uncertain, but something calls me, something vast and quiet and old. If I don't make it back, let this be my story. Let someone know that silence isn't empty. It's full of songs we've forgotten to hear. The journey lasts days, or maybe hours. Time stretches strangely when you're close to the edge of reality. The deeper I go, the darker it gets. Not absence of light dark, but dense, like swimming through the ink of forgotten stars. And then, a shimmer, a pulse, the same glow. I drop out of warp and find myself facing a planet, but not one made of rock or gas. This world is translucent, almost invisible, its surface rippling like water beneath starlight. The scanners can't decide if it's solid or liquid. They read temperature, 0, then 1,000, then nothing. I guide the seraphine closer. The air, if you can call it air, feels alive. Tiny motes of light float outside, moving as if they're watching me. You followed the song. Her voice echoes in my mind again, softer this time, like a whisper wrapped in static. Where are you? I ask aloud. Everywhere. I take the landing craft and descend through the shimmering clouds. Below, I see an ocean of glowing mist and shapes moving within it. They're not human, not creatures either. They're memories, impressions of beings made of light and emotion. When I step out of the craft, I feel no weight. My body floats slightly, my steps leaving ripples of color beneath me. She appears again, this time close enough that I can almost touch her. Welcome to Oralis, she says. The world that remembers. Remembers what? Everything the stars have ever felt. Her gaze meets mine, and for the first time, I see emotion in her. Not just calm serenity, but longing. You are one of us once, she whispers. Before you became flesh, before you took form. That's not possible, isn't it? Every traveler carries starlight in their veins. Every dreamer holds a piece of where they came from. The air vibrates softly. The motes of light begin to move, swirling around us. And then I hear it. Faint music, not mechanical, not synthetic. Living sound, woven from the hum of creation itself. It surrounds me, flows through me, and suddenly I see things. Worlds being born, stars blooming like flowers, galaxies spinning in endless dance. The sound is both infinite and intimate, like the heartbeat of the universe itself. I fall to my knees, overwhelmed. Tears float upward from my cheeks, shimmering like droplets of silver. She kneels beside me, her hand hovering above mine. Now you understand. You are not lost. You are simply remembering. Remembering what? That you were never alone. For a moment, I can't breathe. The music fills me, drowns me in warmth, and something in my chest, that cold, hollow ache, begins to melt. I see my home planet again, not through sorrow, but through peace. The people I left behind, the sky I once watched, and suddenly I realize they were never gone. They're all here, in this melody, in this eternal rhythm of being. This is what we call the whisper, she says softly. The song that binds all who dream. I whisper, why me? Again, she smiles faintly, because only those who ache to sleep can hear it. The restless, the seekers, the broken hearts that never stopped beating, even when the universe forgot their names. The motes swirl closer now, wrapping around us like constellations made flesh. The music swells, and I feel my body dissolve, my mind expanding, touching the rhythm of the cosmos. For a timeless moment, I am the stars, I am the sound, I am the dream. And then, silence. When I open my eyes again, I'm back aboard the Seraphine. The lights flicker softly, everything looks the same, but the silence feels different, alive, breathing. On the console, a new symbol glows, a small spiral of light endlessly spinning, a gift, a sign, and next to it, written in soft, golden text, you are not alone, Lior. I smile for the first time in years, a real smile. Then I lean back in my chair, watch the starlight through the window, and whisper, good night, Oralis. The engines hum, the void sings, and I drift slowly to sleep, not lost this time, but found within the silence that has always loved me back. When I opened my eyes again, the ship was whispering, not in words, not in sound, but in feeling. The hull breathed slowly, matching the rhythm of my heart, as if we had learned to sleep together in the same dream. Outside, Oralis floated below me, the shimmering world of light and mist. It looked less like a planet now, more like a reflection, a memory of what a planet could be. I stared through the glass until the lines between stars and sea began to blur. A faint vibration rippled through the floor. The console pulsed once, a soft tone, low and steady. Then a voice came through the air, not from the ship's speakers, but from everywhere at once. You have heard the whisper. Will you listen deeper? I answered without words, just closed my eyes and nodded. And suddenly, the ship dissolved. The glass, the lights, the chair beneath me, all melted into gentle radiance. I was floating again, surrounded by flowing ribbons of light. They curved and danced, forming shapes that looked like constellations learning to move. A familiar presence coalesced in front of me. Her, the being of light from the realm, the one who had called me traveler. She shone dimly now, like a candle behind fog. You came back, she said, her tone somewhere between relief and wonder. You remembered the way. I didn't try to, I said. It just happened. That is how truth finds you. Never by searching, only by surrendering. I wanted to ask what she meant, but the words drifted away before I could catch them. She reached out, and the space between us filled with small orbs of light. Each one hummed a tiny note, together forming a soft harmony that wrapped around my mind. Images bloomed inside the sound, not seen but felt. I felt forests breathing, oceans dreaming, stars weeping into new suns. I felt lives being born and fading in the rhythm of a cosmic heartbeat. It was too much beauty to hold, yet too gentle to break me. This is the song beneath the stars, she whispered. Every world has one. Yours does too, though your people have forgotten how to hear it. Her light dimmed, and I sensed sadness. When your kind learned to build machines, they stopped listening to the sky. They tried to speak louder than the wind, and the music fell silent. I floated silently, feeling the truth of her words. Memories of my planet, Eloris, rose before me, towers reaching into the clouds, skies filled with metal wings, the hum of cities that never slept. I remembered how we replaced lullabies with data streams, how we traded wonder for calculation. Maybe that was why I had left, because silence had become unbearable. Can it be restored? I asked. Not restored, she said gently. Remembered. The music never leaves. It only waits for someone who will hear again. I looked at her, a question forming inside the hush. Why me? She smiled, the kind of smile that holds both sorrow and joy. Because you were born under a sleeping star. Because you dreamed of light, even when surrounded by noise. Because every traveler who drifts too long begins to hear the call of home, not the home behind you, but the one ahead. Her words moved through me like a current of warm wind. I didn't fully understand them, but I felt them, and that was enough. Then the lights around us began to shimmer faster, pulsing like a great heart. I heard low tones, deep as thunder yet soft as breath. The ribbons of light folded in on themselves, forming a gate of sound and color. Beyond this, she said, lies the heart of Oralis. There you will find what was lost, and perhaps what you seek. I felt the pull, gentle but irresistible. I hesitated only for a heartbeat, then drifted forward. The gate dissolved into me. I fell, or floated, through endless twilight. There was no sense of direction, only motion through emotion itself. Joy tasted like gold, sorrow like blue light. I wasn't traveling through space anymore. I was traveling through feeling. Then, slowly, I began to see. A valley appeared, glowing rivers flowing through transparent hills. The air shimmered with notes that looked like falling petals. In the distance, towers of crystal rose, each vibrating with its own tone. It was a city, but alive, built not from matter, but from music. At the center, a sphere of pure radiance hovered, pulsing softly. Every beat sent waves of color through the landscape. I could feel its rhythm in my bones. Steady, calm, eternal. This is the heart, she whispered beside me. The place where songs are born. I drifted closer, drawn by something I couldn't name. When I touched the light, it entered me. A rush of warmth that carried memories, not my own. I saw ancient beings weaving galaxies from thought. I saw Oralis forming, its surface humming with newborn harmony. And then, silence, a dark wave spreading through the cosmos, dimming the music. What happened? I asked. Your kind, she said quietly. Ours, all who forgot how to listen. The light pulsed once, as if sighing. But it is not the end. Every silence waits for a note to begin again. Her form flickered, fading like mist. The song inside you has awakened, traveler. When you return to your world, sing it. Not with voice, but with being. Dream it into those who have forgotten to dream. I reached out, trying to hold her light, but my hand passed through like through smoke. Will I see you again? Every time you close your eyes, beneath the stars, she whispered. The light folded inward, then burst silently into thousands of tiny spheres that drifted upward. Each one became a new star in the sky above the valley. And then, stillness. I was back on the Seraphine, sitting in the pilot's chair, hands trembling. The console glowed softly. No alarms, no errors, only the spiral of light spinning slowly. Outside, the stars looked the same, yet brighter, closer, alive. I felt the rhythm again, deep and steady. It was inside me now, humming quietly, guiding my breath. I leaned back, closed my eyes, and let the sound fill me. You are not lost, I whispered to myself. You are listening. The engines purred, the stars shimmered, and somewhere beyond them all, the universe sang softly, a lullaby for every wandering soul still searching for its home. The stars folded behind me like pages in an endless book. Each one whispered as it closed, a soft farewell, a promise of return. The Seraphine drifted through the velvet dark, its engines singing low, a lullaby for the vast between. I was no longer the same traveler who had entered the song. Something inside me hummed quietly, not a sound, but a pulse, an echo of the heart of Oralis still beating in my chest. Every movement, every breath carried its rhythm. Even silence now had texture, a music too fine to hear. For days, or perhaps eternities, I floated in thought. Time no longer behaved like it used to. It stretched and curved, like light around gravity. I would close my eyes and drift for what felt like moments, and when I opened them again, galaxies had shifted. The message of the being of light still shimmered in my mind. When you return to your world, sing it, not with voice, but with being. But what did it mean to become a song? To sing without sound? I tried to listen to the hum of the ship, to the heartbeat of my own body, to the silence between. It was there, faint but steady, the same vibration that had lived beneath the stars of Oralis. And when I focused on it, the emptiness around me changed. The black void brightened into soft gradients of color. Nebulae unfolded like sleeping flowers. I wasn't merely traveling through space anymore. I was dancing through it. The seraphine responded. Lights glowed along its frame, matching the rhythm of my breath. We were no longer pilot and machine. We were partners, bound by resonance. One night, if one could call it that, for space knows no night or day, a soft glow appeared ahead, pale blue and trembling. It was Alaris, my home, the world I had left behind, in silence and haste. I watched as its silver rings caught the light of a distant sun. The sight sent a tremor through me. Nostalgia or sorrow, I could not tell. As the ship descended through the atmosphere, clouds embraced us like familiar ghosts. Cities flickered below, great oceans of light pulsing with restless energy. Even from above, I could feel the hum of their machines, cold and constant, a rhythm without rest. I landed quietly near the edge of the Solis Plateau, a place I used to come as a child to watch the stars and wonder where dreams began. The air smelled of iron and static, the scent of a world too awake to sleep. I stepped out, boots sinking softly into silver dust. The wind was mechanical here, pushed by turbines rather than sky. And yet, somewhere beneath the drone of engines, I thought I heard it, faint and fragile. The song, a memory of melody drifting like smoke. I walked toward the nearest city. Alaris had changed, or perhaps it had always been this way, and I had changed instead. Towers stretched higher than I remembered, each one blinking in patterns too precise to be accidental. Machines glided through the streets, humming in perfect coordination. The people moved like currents, fast, focused, efficient. Their eyes glowed faintly with the sheen of implants. They barely looked at one another. I tried to speak to one. She glanced at me, expression empty, then returned to the soft light of the device in her palm. Dream sharing unit offline, she muttered to herself, rebooting neural sync. Her voice sounded mechanical, stripped of wonder. Her mind was elsewhere, perhaps everywhere, but never here. I felt a heaviness in my chest. This was the silence the being had spoken of. Not the absence of sound, but the absence of listening. I spent days wandering the city. I spoke to elders, engineers, even to the leaders in their glass towers. I told them of Oralis, of the song beneath the stars, of the heart that pulsed beyond the reach of machines. But they only smiled politely, recorded my words, and stored them in data archives, labeled anomalous spiritual event. A fascinating hallucination, said one scientist, possibly caused by prolonged isolation in deep space. You speak in metaphors, said another. We require evidence. Evidence. They wanted proof of the unmeasurable. They had forgotten how to feel without sensors, how to dream without screens. So I stopped speaking and began to listen again. At night, I climbed to the highest terrace. The sky was pale, washed out by city light. Still, a few stars managed to pierce through, faint but defiant. I sat there for hours, breathing, letting the rhythm of the universe return to me. I hummed softly, not a tune, but a vibration, low and warm, the same pulse that had stirred within me since Oralis. The air around me changed. The machines nearby slowed, their lights dimming slightly, as though confused. And then, a sound answered me, soft at first, then clearer, a tone from the distance, echoing through the metal canyons of the city. Another followed, higher, then another, until the air shimmered with resonance. Windows opened, people stepped out, looking around, uncertain. They felt it too, though they didn't understand it yet. The sound wasn't coming from me, it was coming through me. It spread like dawn, from tower to tower, from street to street, like a wave of invisible light. Somewhere, a child began to laugh, not because of a joke, but because the world suddenly felt alive again. That laugh joined the rhythm, a pure, bright note cutting through the gloom. And then, as if remembering something ancient, the city began to hum. The machines harmonized with the wind. The turbines shifted pitch. The lights flickered in gentle cadence. People stopped walking. They stood still, eyes wide, as the vibration reached their chests. Many wept, without knowing why. They called it the resonance event, but I knew its true name. It was the song beneath the stars, returning to a world that had forgotten its own melody. Days turned into weeks. The rhythm remained, growing stronger. People began to dream again. Art returned, not for profit, but for peace. Children painted constellations that danced when you looked at them. Old musicians played without instruments, their hearts generating tones that healed the air. For the first time in centuries, Alaris slept, and in that sleep, it dreamed. One evening, as I sat on the plateau again, watching the new constellations swirl above, I felt her presence, faint but unmistakable. "You did it," whispered the being of light, her voice barely a breath against the wind. "The song remembered itself through you." I smiled softly. "I only listened. That is all it ever takes." Her form shimmered, a faint silhouette among the stars. "But the melody is not complete yet. There are others, in other worlds, who have forgotten, just as yours did. The song waits for you still." I looked up at the endless sky, the same one that had once terrified me with its silence. Now it looked alive, each star pulsing with rhythm. "I'll go," I said quietly, "when they are ready to hear." "They are always ready," she replied. "They just do not remember." Her light faded, and once again I was alone, but never lonely. I returned to the Seraphine. The ship purred, as if it had been waiting all this time. I touched the control panel. It glowed gently beneath my hand. The coordinates unfolded on the screen, not numbers, but harmonics, each one a note leading to another world, another silence waiting to be sung awake. I took a breath. The engines rumbled softly. The ship lifted from the plateau, dust swirling beneath us like a sigh. As we rose, the lights of Alaris dimmed into distance, and I whispered to my world, one last time, "Sleep well, my home. Dream deeply. I'll sing you again when the stars grow quiet." Then the void opened before me, once more, not empty, but full of rhythm, full of promise. The stars pulsed in time with my heartbeat, and the universe hummed softly, like it remembered me. And as the Seraphine vanished into the dark, I realized the truth she had always meant. To travel through the stars is not to leave home. It is to carry its song with you, wherever silence has forgotten how to listen. The hum of the Seraphine filled the quiet of the stars, a steady heartbeat beneath the vast silence. It had been many light cycles since I left Ilaris, yet her song still lingered behind me, a soft echo glowing at the edge of memory. The coordinates before me shimmered not in numbers, but in tone and color, blue, silver, and faintly green, the melody of a water world. The next verse of the cosmic symphony was calling. I closed my eyes and let the ship drift along the current of starlight. There was no need for thrusters here. The path unfolded like music, note after note, rhythm after rhythm, until the darkness began to ripple. And then I saw it, a world made of reflection. It was not blue, like ordinary oceans, but iridescent, shifting between pearl and gold, its surface smooth as glass, clouds coiled like soft ribbons above it, each one mirrored perfectly below. Even the stars had twins in its waters. I slowed the seraphine and let her hover above the surface. Waves did not break here. They breathed. The entire ocean seemed alive, each rise and fall like the inhale and exhale of some gentle being. When I stepped outside, my boots met no solid ground. I stood on the water itself, as though gravity had agreed to be kind. Each step sent ripples in circles that sang when they met. The sound was faint, like distant bells underwater. This world was not silent. It spoke in vibration, in resonance too soft for most to hear. I called out softly, not in words, but in feeling, and the water answered. Shapes rose from the surface, tall, glimmering, like sculptures made of living glass. They took no single form, their outlines bent and curved, mirroring whatever I felt. When curiosity stirred in me, they shimmered gold. When wonder filled my chest, they turned deep violet. But when I grew uncertain, they flickered and blurred, as if afraid. Who are you? I whispered. A voice like rainfall replied, not in my ears, but in my mind. We are what you bring to us. We are reflection, memory, and dream. We see only what is seen within. I knelt beside one of the liquid forms. Its surface rippled, showing my face. But it was not quite me. It was an echo, softened, eyes brighter, expression calmer. It looked like the version of myself I had once hoped to be. Do you have a name? I asked. Names change with mood, the reflection replied gently. But you may call us Mira, for that is the sound your thought made. Mira. The word glowed faintly in my mind, warm and fluid. I told her, or it, or them, about Oralis, about the song beneath the stars, about the city of Ilaris, learning to dream again. As I spoke, the waters around me shimmered in waves of color, deep turquoise when I spoke of awe, soft rose when I mentioned sorrow. The whole world seemed to listen, absorbing my words, not through sound, but through emotion. When I finished, Mira was silent for a long time. Then, softly, we have heard of the song. Once, long ago, we too sang, but we forgot the melody when reflection turned to fear. Fear of what? I asked. Of seeing truth too clearly? She gestured, or rather, the water rippled outward, and I saw something below the surface. Not shadows, but memories, images of other travelers who had come before me. Creatures of light, of metal, of skin, each one gazing into the mirror and turning away. They saw their own faces, said Mira, and mistook them for monsters. I understood then. This was not a world of danger or violence, but of honesty. It showed you not what you wanted to see, but what you were, and many could not bear it. I looked deeper. At first I saw my reflection again, calm, centered, steady, but then the surface quivered, and a different image rose. A child, small and alone beneath an alien sky, hands clutching a cracked compass, eyes full of longing. It was me, long before the Seraphine, before Oralis, before all of it. I remembered that day, the day I promised the stars I'd never be lonely again, and yet I had carried that loneliness into every world I'd ever touched. Tears burned my eyes, and the water shimmered brighter. Now you see, whispered Mira, the song cannot pass through a closed heart. You must let it move, through joy, through pain, through all that you are. I fell to my knees, palms pressed against the living surface. The water felt warm, alive, and when I exhaled, the ripples carried my breath into music, low at first, then higher, until it filled the horizon. A single note of sorrow turned into a chord of peace. Mira and the reflections around me began to hum, not as echoes, but as harmony. Their forms shimmered, merging into waves of light that danced in rhythm. The whole ocean became a symphony, and in that song I saw faces, thousands of them, rising from beneath the waves, children laughing, lovers holding hands, old beings made of crystal, smiling softly. All the emotions ever felt by those who had come here were now part of the water's voice. We remember, said Mira. The melody was never lost, only waiting for a heart brave enough to feel. I closed my eyes and let the sound carry me. It wasn't sound as humans know it. It was light and warmth and memory. It was the feeling of being known. When the song faded, the reflections settled once more, their forms gentle and still. You have sung us awake, said Mira. But now the song must continue. The next world waits, the one of winds and whispers. The world of air, I asked. Yes, there. Sound has forgotten how to listen. You will need what you learned here. The horizon shimmered again, and a soft breeze, impossible in a world of water, brushed my face. It carried the faint scent of ozone and rain. I stood slowly, feeling lighter than before. The loneliness I had carried for years was still there, but it no longer hurt. It sang quietly, like a companion instead of a wound. Before leaving, I looked once more into the water. My reflection smiled, and for the first time, it felt like me. The Seraphine glowed gently as I stepped aboard. Drops of living water clung to my suit, glimmering like small stars. As I rose into orbit, the entire planet pulsed once, a heartbeat of light, and I felt it whisper through the ship. Thank you, traveler. May your heart remain open. May your reflection always sing. The ship turned toward the stars again, engines humming in the rhythm I now carried within me. Ahead, the cosmos shimmered with invisible melodies. Each star was no longer just a point of light. It was a note waiting to be sung into life. I whispered into the vastness, lead me to the next verse. And as the Seraphine glided forward, the universe replied in silence, the kind of silence that listens, the kind that hums with promise. I drifted into the comfort of the void, half asleep, half awake, as if floating between breath and dream. And in that drowsy stillness, I thought I heard a faint voice, the echo of Mira, singing softly through the stars. Every world is a mirror, and every heart a song. Remember who you are, and you will never travel alone. The hum of the engines deepened. The starlight grew warmer, and I smiled as I closed my eyes. Tomorrow, the winds would whisper. Tomorrow, another verse would begin. But for now, I let the rhythm of the cosmos cradle me to sleep. The stars hummed low as the seraphine drifted between dust and dream. For days, or perhaps years, I floated through velvet silence, guided not by instruments, but by rhythm. Every pulse of starlight had a pattern, every void had a voice beneath it, and in that quiet music, I found direction. The coordinates led me to a pale world, hovering at the edge of a dying sun. Its atmosphere shimmered faintly, not with color, but with motion. I could see the air swirl and twist, like the whole planet was breathing too fast. Winds roared across the horizon, shaping dunes of silver dust. They carried whispers, thousands of them, half-formed sentences, half-remembered prayers, as if the very air was trying to speak but could never finish. I steadied the ship and listened, and though I heard no words, I felt loneliness. It was different from mine, sharper, restless, desperate, the loneliness of something that had forgotten how to rest. I stepped out into the storm. My suit's filters adjusted, but even through the noise, the whispers pressed against me. They slid along my skin like ghostly fingers, begging to be understood. "Who are you?" I whispered to the wind. At first there was no answer, then a shudder, a long sigh that rolled through the desert like thunder. We are the words that never landed, the promises never kept, the dreams too loud to fade, and too soft to survive. The wind's voice trembled as it spoke, as though afraid it might disappear again. We speak, but none hear. We call, but no one answers. I closed my eyes, letting the air whip around me. Every gust carried an emotion, fear, sorrow, longing, each gust a fragment of something once alive. I realized then, this was a world made of forgotten voices. Every sound that ever went unheard had come here, gathering like lost children. I thought of my own silence, of the times I had spoken into nothing, hoping someone might answer. So I answered now, not with words, but with breath. I inhaled deeply, and as I exhaled, I hummed, a low, steady tone that cut through the wind. The storm paused, confused by something new. Then it whirled closer, circling me. The sand rose in spirals of gold and gray. My hum grew louder, flowing into melody, and the wind began to listen. "You sing," the voice said. "You speak without shouting." "I'm not here to fight the storm," I replied softly. "I'm here to teach it how to rest." The air trembled, a sound like laughter mixed with lightning. Rest? We have never known rest. We were born from chaos. We are what is left when peace is broken. "Then let's make something new," I said. "Let's build stillness together." The storm howled once, high and fierce, and then slowly began to calm. The air grew cooler. The dunes stopped shifting, and for the first time since I arrived, I heard silence between gusts. From that silence, a figure began to form. It wasn't made of flesh or metal. It was the wind itself, given shape by its own sound. A woman's outline, hair made of dust and light, eyes like clear glass, reflecting every horizon. "I am Era," she said, the first whisper that ever escaped a heart. She hovered before me, hands trembling with invisible weight. "Why have you come here, traveler?" "I'm following a song," I said, a melody older than time, one that connects all things. Aera tilted her head, her voice softening like a lullaby. We've forgotten how to sing. Our voices tore the sky. When we tried to cry out for help, our own echoes deafened us. Her words swirled into dust that shimmered between us. Can the wind learn to listen again? She asked. Yes, I said, but it must begin with quiet. She stared at me for a long moment, then drifted closer, her form dissolving into small glowing motes. They danced around me like fireflies. I sat down in the silver sand, and the storm knelt with me. The winds softened, not gone, but tamed. I began to hum again, a slower, deeper tone, a rhythm that matched my heartbeat. Aera's form flickered beside me, and she joined in, her voice weaving through mine like a soft ribbon. The dunes shimmered, each grain vibrating in rhythm. The entire desert began to move, not wildly this time, but in gentle waves, a vast ocean of sand breathing in harmony. Then came the whispers, no longer scattered, but united, thousands of voices singing softly, each finding its place in the melody. The sky opened, clouds swirling into spirals of light. Thunder rolled, not in anger, but like applause. Aera turned to me, smiling faintly. You've done what none have done before. You made silence into music. No, I said quietly. You did. I just listened. She laughed, a sound like warm wind through grass. Perhaps that's what we all needed. Someone to listen long enough for us to remember our own voices. I stood, and the air wrapped around me like a soft cloak. It no longer pressed or screamed. It whispered gently. Names, stories, lullabies, the lost words of countless worlds, finally free. The sky faded to violet as the twin moons rose. Aera's form began to scatter into light, her edges fading with each breath. Where will you go now? She asked. To the next verse, I said. There's always another melody waiting. Then carry us with you, she whispered. When you breathe, remember, the wind will sing with you. Her form dissolved completely, turning into a current that lifted me softly upward. I floated back to the Seraphine, the air itself guiding my ascent. When I entered the ship, the winds followed through the open hatch, not as sound, but as a soft hum in the air vents, as if the world itself had decided to travel with me. I looked down from orbit. The planet shimmered with light, winds weaving invisible trails across its surface, like ribbons dancing in moonlight. For the first time, it looked peaceful. I whispered, "Thank you, Aera." And the air around me replied so softly, I almost thought I imagined it. Sleep, traveler. The winds will keep your dreams. I leaned back in the pilot's chair, watching the horizon fade. The hum of the Seraphine merged with the song of the wind. It was no longer a machine's sound. It was breath. As the stars stretched into silver lines ahead, I felt the rhythm slow, my eyelids heavy, and in that quiet, drifting moment, I thought of the lesson the wind had given me, that sometimes peace doesn't come from silence, but from being heard. The engines dimmed, the lights softened. Outside, space was a cradle of silver and shadow. I let my mind drift into dream. The Seraphine flew on autopilot, and I, the alien explorer, the collector of lost songs, finally slept, wrapped in the soft lullaby of whispering winds. The night on Zephyra felt endless, yet alive. 2 moons hung above, one golden, one silver, weaving soft light through the misty clouds that drifted like ribbons across the sky. I had seen many alien worlds before, but none sang like this one. Literally, the air was humming. A deep, soothing vibration echoed through the canyons, like the planet itself was breathing in harmony. I sat on a ledge overlooking a valley filled with glowing water. The liquid shimmered with soft hues of blue and violet, reflecting the moons in twin streams. The forest around me pulsed in rhythm, leaves folding and unfolding like the notes of a living instrument. I whispered to myself, "It's beautiful." And then I heard it. A faint, melodic voice, not a mechanical sound, not an echo. A voice, feminine, distant, yet unmistakably near. "Traveler, why do you listen?" it said. I froze. "Who's there?" I asked, scanning the shadows. The air shimmered in front of me, and from the light emerged a figure, translucent, like moonlight caught in motion. She looked human, but her eyes were deep pools of silver. Her hair floated as if underwater, strands glowing softly with each word she spoke. "I am part of the moon song," she said gently. "Every world has a rhythm, a pulse. Few stop long enough to hear it." Her voice was like a lullaby, echoing softly in my chest. "Are you alive?" I asked. She smiled faintly. "Alive in memory, in music. I am what remains when time forgets." I watched her drift closer, and my heart trembled. There was sadness in her beauty, the kind that only comes from being forgotten for too long. She pointed toward the glowing rivers below. "Those streams, they are memories, flowing endlessly. Once, our people sang to them, and they carried our stories to the moons. But the voices faded when we vanished." I stepped forward, my boots crunching softly on the crystal dust. "What happened to you?" Her gaze turned to the horizon, where the moons touched the sea. Silence. We built cities that reached the stars, yet we forgot how to listen. The moons tried to warn us, but we no longer heard their song. Then the storms came. The word storms carried a strange weight, like it held more than just weather. She looked at me again. "You still listen, traveler? That is why you found me. That is why the moons called you." I felt a warmth in my chest. Part awe, part ache. What do they want from me? She moved closer until I could see faint constellations shimmering beneath her skin. "To remember," she whispered, "to carry our song beyond this sky. The universe forgets too easily." As she spoke, the air filled with harmonies, the same rhythm I'd heard earlier, now swelling into a full, breathtaking melody. The forest glowed brighter, and the rivers rose slightly, swirling into patterns that looked almost like writing. It was then I realized the planet wasn't just alive. It was speaking through sound, through her, through everything. Her light began to flicker. "My time here is brief," she said softly. "When the silver moon fades, I will return to its light. But remember this, every world you touch has a voice. Listen, before it falls silent." I wanted to reach for her, but my hand passed through her form like smoke. "Wait," I said. "What's your name?" She smiled faintly. "Call me Lyria, the one who listens." Then she lifted her hand and pressed it against my chest, though she had no weight. I felt a vibration, a note, pure and endless, sink into my heartbeat. And in that moment, I heard it all. The laughter of children long gone, the echoes of ancient temples, the dreams of explorers who had once called this planet home, all of it, woven into one endless song. Then, As suddenly as she had appeared, she dissolved into mist. The humming faded, leaving only silence. I stood beneath the twin moons, my chest still glowing faintly where she'd touched me. The rhythm lingered, quiet, steady, like the planet had left a piece of its music inside me. I whispered into the stillness, "I'll remember." And as I turned back toward my ship, the golden moon shimmered brighter, as if nodding in approval. The hum returned, faint but present, guiding me onward, not as a stranger anymore, but as part of the song. I walked beneath the starlight, the words of Lyria echoing in my heart. Every world has a voice. Listen, before it falls silent. And so I did. That night, the galaxy felt closer than ever, like it too was listening. I drifted through the stillness between moons, where light moved slower than thought, and silence hummed like a low song. The path before me was silver, the dust of forgotten stars painting my ship in glimmer. My hands rested on the controls. Though I barely touched them, the vessel moved as if guided by something unseen. Perhaps her song, still echoing in my chest. Lyria. Her name had become the rhythm of my breathing. Every exhale whispered her syllables. Every heartbeat replayed that final look she gave before she faded into starlight. I had traveled 1,000 worlds, studied alien suns, mapped the forgotten spirals of ancient galaxies, yet I could not map the emptiness she left behind. I remember her eyes when the last moon dissolved into dawn, soft like liquid silver, filled with quiet understanding. She didn't say goodbye. She didn't have to. Her melody carried it for her. Now that same melody danced faintly in the corridors of my ship. Sometimes I thought it was memory. Other times, I swore I heard her hum along the static between transmissions. The engines purred beneath me, slow and steady. The nebula ahead shimmered pink and blue, shaped like a sleeping creature's breath. I entered its heart, feeling the ship tremble as if crossing into a dream. And perhaps it was a dream, one that refused to end. The nebula's glow fell across my face, soft as moonlight. I closed my eyes. I felt it on my skin like her touch. Warm, fleeting, impossible. Lyria, I whispered, if you're still listening, guide me. For a moment, nothing answered, only the hum of deep space. Then the light flickered. Once, twice, as though something beyond wanted me to know I wasn't alone. I smiled faintly. It was her way. She never used words, when light could speak instead. The next planet shimmered beneath me, like a sapphire wrapped in mist. It rotated lazily, the clouds glinting silver under twin moons. I descended through the haze, my ship gliding through gentle storms that looked like flowing ribbons. When I landed, silence greeted me again. But this silence was not empty. It was alive. Every leaf, every drop of dew seemed to breathe. It was a world untouched, a garden floating in endless night. As I stepped out, my boots sank softly into moss that glowed under my feet. The air shimmered faintly blue, and when I exhaled, my breath turned to sparkling dust. A stream wound through the forest, like a thread of liquid glass. I followed it, guided by instinct or by memory. The stream sang quietly, and the melody, oh, it was hers, the same notes that once wrapped around me as she drifted into light. I knelt by the stream, touched the water, and felt it pulse beneath my fingers. The rhythm matched my heartbeat, the same rhythm that had become her name. Lyria, I murmured again. voice trembling. You're here, aren't you? The stream glowed brighter in response. Night on that planet came slowly, like a sigh. The sky turned violet, then black, and stars unfolded above me like wings. I lay on the glowing moss, staring at constellations that shimmered in patterns I almost recognized. That's when I saw it, her face in the sky. Not truly her, but the outline of her smile, traced by stars and swirling dust. I spoke to her then, not as a scientist or an explorer, but as a lost soul speaking to a ghost of light. I've seen worlds burn, I said softly. I've walked through storms made of sound. I've tasted the fire of newborn suns, but nothing compares to the warmth you gave me, Lyria. Nothing. The stars flickered, as though in reply. Do you know, I continued, I still hear your laughter in the static between transmissions. I still reach for you when the nebula turns quiet. I still dream of your hands. And in that moment, I could almost swear the breeze carried her voice back to me. Keep dreaming, traveler. I never truly left. I opened my eyes wide. The words weren't real, not in sound, but they lived in feeling, like a vibration deep in my chest. She was right. She hadn't left. For days, I wandered that planet. It had no name, but I called it Eclipsera, the resting place of echoes. Each dawn was painted gold and indigo. Each night shimmered with gentle moons, and each moment I stayed, I learned more about the light she left behind. I found her symbols, etched into crystal stones near the forest's heart, spirals, lines, and runes, shaped like flowing rivers. They pulsed faintly as I touched them. Each symbol played a note, and together they formed a melody that matched her hum. She had been here, or at least a part of her had. I gathered the stones into a circle and stood within them. The air vibrated softly. The forest seemed to lean closer. Listening, I closed my eyes and began to hum along. Slowly, the stones lifted from the ground, swirling around me like fireflies. A wind rose, not from the sky, but from within. When I opened my eyes, everything had changed. The forest melted into light. The stars turned to glowing rivers. I was no longer on solid ground, but floating in a sea of luminous mist. And there she was, Lyria, not as flesh and form, but as radiance, woven from the very essence of moonlight. Her hair drifted like liquid silver. Her eyes glowed softly, holding galaxies within them. Traveler, she whispered. Her voice was not sound. It was light, touching every particle around me. You followed my song, I nodded, tears blurring my sight. I never stopped. She smiled, the same soft, knowing smile she gave before she vanished. I thought I lost you, I whispered. You were gone, and I searched every world, every echo of light. She lifted a hand, silencing me with warmth alone. You didn't lose me. You found where I truly belong. Her fingers brushed my cheek. The touch was neither cold nor warm. It was peace. This place, she said softly, is the cradle of echoes. When a being of light fades, their essence comes here. You felt it, because our souls share the same rhythm. Then, this is goodbye again? I asked, voice trembling. Not goodbye, she said. Not anymore. You've come far enough to see beyond the separation. When you dream, when you listen, you'll always find me there. The air shimmered with her glow. I wanted to reach out, to hold her, but my hands passed through her form like mist. Instead, she leaned closer, forehead against mine, her light sinking gently into my chest. carry the song," she whispered. "It will guide you home." And with that, she dissolved once more into a swirl of stars. When I woke, I was lying in the same circle of stones, the forest quiet again. The sky above me was lighter, the moons higher. My heart still glowed faintly where her light had touched me. The stones had lost their glow, but the melody lingered, woven into the air, into me. I stood and looked toward the horizon, where the mist rose and parted. Beyond it, I saw the faint outline of my ship waiting by the stream. I walked slowly, each step soft against the moss, and as I walked, I hummed her song. Each note made the world shimmer. Each pause let the silence breathe. I realized then that space was not emptiness. It was music, too vast for the ear to hold. And love was the echo that never faded. That night, before leaving the planet, I stood at the edge of the stream once more. The reflection in the water showed not just my face, but hers beside it. Faint, smiling, "I'll keep the song alive," I whispered, and the water shimmered, repeating her voice one last time. "Dream well, traveler." As my ship lifted into orbit, I looked down at Eclipsera, glowing faintly like a tear on the cheek of the universe. The engines hummed in rhythm with my heartbeat, and for the first time in a long time, I did not feel lost. I felt found. Her song guided me through the darkness, through the corridors of galaxies and time, and every time I closed my eyes, I saw her, not fading, but shining. The stars outside blurred into streaks of light as I set a new course toward an unknown sun. But this time, I smiled because I finally understood. Love was not bound by form or distance. It was the gravity that held the stars together, the melody between silence, the dream between breaths. And wherever I went, she would go with me. Always. Silence. The kind that isn't empty, but full. After leaving Zephyra, I drifted through the quiet sea of space, the hum of my ship blending with the echo of Lyria's song that still pulsed somewhere behind my ribs. Every world I passed seemed to shimmer faintly when the melody rose in my mind, as if the universe itself were listening. Days, if days could be counted between suns, passed like feathers on a current. I spoke to no one, yet I never felt alone. The stars whispered, their light bent softly through my window, drawing shapes that reminded me of eyes, of hands, of the shimmer of her smile. At night, when the ship dimmed to rest mode, I closed my eyes and let the hum of the engines rock me. The rhythm matched my breathing. Sleep would come slowly, drifting through memories of Zephyra, the twin moons, the glowing rivers, her translucent form reaching toward me. Sometimes I dreamed I was still there, sitting beside the water that sang. Lyria's voice would rise from the mist, distant and near all at once. Listen, before it falls silent, and I would wake with a soft ache, unsure if the sound came from memory or from the stars themselves. I began recording what I felt, not in data logs, but in melodies. Each morning, I would hum to the ship, letting the notes float into the air. The cabin would glow faintly, as if the sound touched the light. I named them starlight songs, fragments of peace I offered to the emptiness. One quiet cycle, as I floated near a nebula of violet dust, the instruments flickered, the screens filled with shimmering patterns, waveforms that pulsed in rhythm with my hum. It was as though the nebula was answering me. I turned off every machine and listened. The silence that followed was not still. It was breathing, slow and deep. In that hush, I felt Lyria's presence again. "Are you here?" I whispered. No voice replied, but the dust outside swirled gently, forming a spiral. I watched it twist, a glowing dance in the blackness, and I felt warmth spread through me. Maybe it was the universe's way of answering. Maybe it was her. I didn't need to know. Some truths were meant only to be felt. As the days drifted on, I began noticing small changes in myself. My heartbeat seemed to follow the slow rhythm of the stars. My thoughts softened. The restlessness that had driven me for years was fading. I was learning the art of stillness. I realized then that traveling didn't always mean moving. Sometimes it meant listening, truly listening, to the space between things, where meaning hides quietly. I recorded another message in my log. Lyria taught me that silence is not absence. It is the breath of the cosmos. When I played it back, the audio carried a faint harmonic overtone that hadn't been there before. A delicate note, high and sweet. It sounded like laughter, or perhaps moonlight turned into sound. For hours, I let that note repeat, filling the ship with a serene vibration. I lay on my bunk, eyes closed, and imagined drifting through waves of silver light. The stars outside blurred, and the hum lulled me toward sleep. In the half-dream that followed, I walked across a sea made of starlight. Each step rippled soft circles of light that spread into infinity. Lyria walked beside me, silent but smiling. Her hand brushed mine, and though we were made of nothing but light, I felt warmth. "You're learning," she said at last. "What am I learning?" To belong without needing to possess, to love without needing to stay. I wanted to ask more, but the dream dissolved into color, blue, gold, violet, and I woke to find my ship bathed in the glow of a new dawn. A small sun had risen over the horizon of a distant planet, its light gentle and pink, like the first blush of memory. I drifted closer. The surface shimmered like silk, covered with oceans that reflected the light in soft waves. I didn't land. I simply floated above, watching the sunrise spread across the curves of the world. For the first time in ages, I felt no urge to explore, no mission to complete, just stillness, just breath. I opened the communication channel and let my song play through the void. It echoed faintly, carried by invisible waves. Somewhere, perhaps light years away, someone might hear it and feel a little less alone. The thought made me smile. I whispered into the microphone, "If anyone hears this, may your journey be soft. May your stars be kind." Then I closed my eyes again. The ship rocked gently, cradled by invisible tides. I drifted into that half-sleep where thought fades into feeling. In that space, Lyria's voice returned one last time, soft, distant, but clear. Every world has a voice, every traveler carries an echo. The words melted into the rhythm of my heartbeat until I could no longer tell them apart. I slept deeply, peacefully, dreaming not of destinations, but of sound. The endless lullaby of creation breathing through me, through the ship, through everything. When I finally woke, stars still shimmered outside, patient and eternal. I smiled, whispered thanks to the silence, and continued onward, listening, always listening. The stars had been quiet for many cycles. Their hum still lingered, faint and constant, but the melodies that once filled my ship had faded into whispers. I didn't mind the silence. I'd learned to live inside it, to let it breathe around me, like soft air wrapping my thoughts. But on the 37th rotation, since leaving Zephyra's orbit, something changed. It began with a flicker, barely noticeable, on the outer sensors, a pattern of light that shimmered once, then vanished. I might have ignored it if it hadn't carried a rhythm. It pulsed 3 times, paused, and repeated, matching the same gentle cadence as Lyria's song. My breath caught. "Is that you?" I whispered, though I knew the void rarely answered directly. The signal pulsed again, this time brighter, clearer, and strangely organic. It wasn't mechanical like a distress beacon. It was alive. I followed it. The ship glided silently through a stretch of darkness between constellations, where stars grew sparse and the void thickened into ink. My engines dimmed to a whisper outside the window. Threads of faint light curled like veins in the blackness, plasma rivers that pulsed in sync with the signal. Hours passed, or maybe it was days. Time bends differently in the emptiness. Then, out of the darkness, a glow emerged. At first I thought it was a nebula, misty and radiant, but as I drifted closer, I realized it had structure, a sphere of vines, not metal or rock, but living tendrils of luminous energy woven together, slowly rotating. It was vast, larger than a planet, smaller than a star. Each vine shimmered with golden biolight, curling and unfurling like the petals of a cosmic flower. I felt my chest tighten, overwhelmed by its beauty. I activated the scanners, but they could barely comprehend what they were seeing. Composition, unknown energy, signature, harmonic risk, immeasurable. Immeasurable, I murmured. That's comforting. I took the ship closer until the vines filled the view. Their glow cast a soft, honey light across my cabin, painting my hands and walls in warmth. Then, through the static of the comms, a faint whisper came, not words, but tones, slow, melodic, familiar, Lyria's melody. The same tune she had hummed through the rivers of Zephyrah, now echoing across light years. My pulse quickened. I set the ship to drift and stepped out in my exosuit, magnetized boots, touching the surface of one thick vine. It felt warm, alive, like the pulse of a heart. The vine beneath my feet glowed brighter, responding to my presence. The entire sphere began to resonate softly, vibrating with a low hum. As I walked, I saw openings in the vine wall, arches shaped like natural doorways. I followed one inside. What I found there stole my breath. A garden, not a garden of soil and trees, but a living cathedral of light. Branches made of translucent fibers arched overhead, sprouting blossoms that shimmered like tiny stars. The air, or whatever passed for air here, tasted sweet, like dew. Each petal radiated faint tones, creating a harmony that vibrated through my bones. Every sound, every flicker of light felt part of an ancient, infinite song. In the center stood something I recognized, a structure, like an altar, but not built. It had grown. Around it floated orbs of blue and gold, turning slowly in place. I reached out to one, and it responded, unfolding into a shape, a memory, I realized, captured in light. I saw Lyria, not her ghostly form from Zephyrah, but real, solid, laughing, surrounded by others like her. They were tending to these same glowing vines, weaving them into patterns, their hands moving in unison like a dance. Their language wasn't made of the words, but hums, harmonics, and gestures. The light flickered again, shifting. The image changed. Storms raged through the same garden, tearing vines apart, breaking harmony. Then, silence. The vision faded, and I stood there trembling. I understood now. This was what was left of her people. Their civilization hadn't died completely. It had transformed. It had become this place, a living memory, still singing after all these eons. I whispered, "Lyria, your song didn't end." The garden responded with a soft pulse. A note rippled through the air, low, warm, like the sound of distant drums. The vines around me shimmered, rearranging themselves until a pattern emerged across the floor, a spiral of light leading deeper inward. I followed. The deeper I walked, the louder the melody grew. It wasn't chaotic. It was structured, layered, full of purpose. It felt like I was walking inside the heartbeat of a galaxy. Finally, I reached the core. A sphere of pure energy floated there, suspended in silence. It glowed brighter than anything I'd ever seen, but it didn't blind me. It welcomed me. Without knowing why, I placed my hand on it. Instantly, warmth flooded through me, gentle but infinite. My mind filled with images, memories that weren't mine, worlds full of laughter, skies that sang, oceans of crystal. I saw Lyria's people again. Scientists, dreamers, healers, all bound together by music. They had discovered something long ago. That sound could weave matter. That harmony could shape existence itself. And so they created this, an eternal garden of resonance, a self-sustaining song that carried their essence beyond death. I felt tears form behind my eyes. The knowledge wasn't just history. It was emotion, their love for life, for beauty, for connection. It filled me until I could hardly breathe. When I finally stepped back, the sphere pulsed once more and released a small fragment of light that floated toward me. It settled against my chest, sinking through the exosuit and into my heart. The same warm vibration I had once felt from Lyria's touch now returned, stronger, deeper. Her voice whispered softly through the hum, "You found what we left for those who still listen." I looked up, smiling faintly. "Thank you." The vines shimmered one last time, then quieted. The hum softened, returning to its original calm rhythm. The garden dimmed gently, as if going to sleep. I returned to my ship, still glowing faintly from the encounter. As I lifted off, the entire sphere of vines began to fold inward, collapsing into a smaller form, like a flower closing at night. Then, with one radiant pulse, it disappeared into the dark. The instruments registered nothing, no coordinates, no readings, but the melody it left behind stayed with me, weaving through my breath and heartbeat. That night, as I drifted between stars, I recorded my final note for the log. I found their garden. They are not gone. They became the music between stars. And now, so have I. I turned off the engines and let the ship glide, weightless and free. The rhythm of the cosmos flowed through me, steady, tender, endless. I closed my eyes, and for the first time since leaving home, I felt not like a wanderer, but like part of something vast and beautiful, humming forever through the quiet. I thought the silence would return, I thought the song would fade away, like all the other voices I had chased through the void. But it didn't. The music stayed, not loud, not demanding, but steady, like a soft heartbeat under my skin. I could feel it even when I closed my eyes. It wasn't coming from outside the ship anymore. It was inside me, woven into the rhythm of my breath. Sometimes I could almost hear words forming in the tones, a whisper beneath the melody. Listen deeper, dream slower. I didn't know if it was Lyria's voice or just my mind echoing the memory of her, but it didn't matter. It felt real, and in space, what feels real is real. The stars around me stretched endlessly, silent companions scattered in ink. My ship drifted without direction now. I had stopped charting coordinates days ago. Or was it weeks? The concept of time had softened into something fluid, something that pulsed with the same gentle beat as the song. Sometimes I wondered if I was still moving at all, or if the universe had simply paused to breathe with me. I would lie in my bunk, eyes half closed, and let the hum of the engines fade beneath the music in my chest. I began to see colors behind my eyelids, soft auroras, swirling slowly, painting my thoughts in light. And then, one night, I dreamed. It wasn't a normal dream. It began with light, pure, liquid light, pouring down from somewhere far above me. I was floating in it, weightless, and I could feel it touching me, curious and tender, like it was trying to remember what it meant to touch. The light spoke, not with words, but with feeling, a pulse of recognition. You've carried our song. Yes, I whispered, though I had no voice in the dream. I found your garden. You've carried it well. The light pulsed again, brighter this time, and I felt a warmth rush through me, so deep it almost hurt. I looked down at my hands and saw that they were glowing faintly, veins of gold threading under my skin. What's happening to me? The light did not answer directly. Instead, it showed me visions. I saw stars forming, great clouds of dust and energy swirling together like slow dancers. I saw planets being born, oceans rising, winds shaping mountains. And through it all, the song. It wasn't a background sound. It was creation itself, the resonance that guided chaos into form, the melody that taught the universe to bloom. Then I saw myself, floating, glowing faintly, just as I was now, only not entirely me. My body shimmered, translucent, my outline blurred. The light from the garden, the fragment that entered me, had begun to merge with my cells, changing me from within. You are becoming what you've heard, the voice said. You are learning the language of creation. I wanted to ask what that meant, but the dream began to dissolve, colors bleeding into the darkness. When I woke, I was still glowing faintly. At first, I thought it was a reflection from the control panel lights, but when I turned them off, the glow remained, subtle, but real, soft, golden veins, pulsing along my forearms and through my neck, in rhythm with my heartbeat. I touched my skin, expecting warmth, but it was cool, almost electric. I felt neither fear nor pain, just awe. I recorded a log entry, though my voice trembled. The garden's song hasn't left me. It's inside me now. I think it's changing me. I don't know into what. As I spoke, my reflection in the viewport shimmered faintly, as though made of mist and starlight. The next few cycles passed in gentle, quiet wonder. I found myself humming without meaning to. The hum carried resonance. It could cause tiny ripples on the surface of the water I drank, or make loose, Metal fragments on my console vibrate softly. The song wasn't just inside me, it was listening back. Sometimes I would whisper, "Are you there, Lyria?" And faintly, through the hum, I would feel a presence, calm, patient, endless. One rotation, as I drifted through a nebular field, the sensors caught something new, a distortion in the fabric of space itself. The readouts danced with confusion, massless, infinite, harmonic, the same signature as the garden. But this time, it wasn't a place, it was a being. I slowed the ship and let the scanner focus. The distortion shimmered into visibility, a shape, immense and fluid, floating gracefully among the clouds of violet dust. It looked like a creature made entirely of aurora, vast wings of light, long flowing tendrils trailing behind it like ribbons of silk. Its form shifted constantly, never staying still, as though made of thought itself. When it turned, I felt, not through the sensors, but through my very soul, that it was aware of me. I heard the melody again, this time outside my body, vibrating through the metal of the ship. The creature was singing, and I sang back. Not consciously, it was instinctive. The tune rose from my chest like breath, carrying the same tones I had learned in the garden. The creature paused mid-flight, then it mirrored my tone, harmonizing softly, beautifully. It drifted closer, until its massive form filled the entire viewport, a living cloud of color and resonance. For a moment, we simply sang to each other, two beings bound by light and sound, echoing across the void. Then, something miraculous happened. The creature's light extended toward my ship, not as a beam, but as a shimmer of energy. It touched the hull, and instead of burning or breaking, it passed through. The walls around me began to glow faintly. The melody deepened. I closed my eyes and felt the presence enter, not as intrusion, but as union. It filled the cabin, wrapped around my thoughts, and whispered softly, "You've found your reflection. My reflection. We were born from the same song. You are what we once were. The garden remembered you." I didn't understand, but I could feel the truth behind the words. The creature, no, the consciousness, wasn't a stranger. It was kin, another echo of Lyria's kind, transformed into light wandering across the cosmos, carrying fragments of memory and song. For a timeless moment, we shared everything. Our memories flowed together. My lonely journeys through cold stars, and its endless flight between dying suns, the grief of loss, the beauty of discovery, the hope that something eternal still sang between the atoms. Then, softly, the creature began to fade. Before it vanished, it left one final phrase, echoing in my mind. "When you return to your world, remember, the light dreams through those who dare to listen." And then it was gone. The nebula dimmed. The scanners fell silent. I floated there for a long time, hands trembling, feeling both infinite and terribly small. What did it mean to return? I had no world left to go back to. My home was long behind me, light years away. But maybe that wasn't what it meant. Maybe returning meant something else, something inward. That night, I couldn't sleep. The hum in my chest had grown stronger, vibrating like a low note beneath my ribs. I stepped out of the sleeping chamber and stood before the wide viewport, watching the stars drift by. And for the first time, I didn't feel like I was looking at the stars. I felt like they were looking at me. I closed my eyes And instead of darkness, I saw light, rivers of it, flowing endlessly, weaving through the cosmos like veins through a great, sleeping body. And I realized something so simple, so profound, it made my breath hitch. The universe wasn't silent. It never had been. I had just been listening too loudly to myself to hear it. Now, with my heartbeat echoing its rhythm, I could hear it everywhere. The soft murmur of existence itself. I whispered into the void, "I can hear you now." And from somewhere, far, far away, the universe whispered back, "Then you are not alone." I smiled, eyes heavy, body light. The hum in my chest slowed, syncing perfectly with the star's silent pulse. Sleep took me gently, as though the cosmos itself had wrapped me in its arms. And as I drifted into dreams, I could feel the light, patient, eternal, dreaming right back. When I awoke, there was no up or down, only light. It shimmered behind my eyes, like the memory of dawn. At first, I thought I was still dreaming. My ship floated in silence, but something had changed. Every surface hummed faintly, tuned to a note I could feel in my bones. The hum wasn't mechanical anymore. It was alive. I sat up slowly, half afraid that if I moved too fast, the illusion would break. But the light stayed. It rippled softly across the cabin walls, like reflections on water. "Are you still here?" I whispered. No voice answered, but the hum deepened, gentle, warm, like the universe sighing in its sleep. That was enough. I floated to the control deck, and the console flickered to life. Before I even touched it, symbols I didn't recognize glowed on the screen, spirals of light that pulsed in rhythm with my breath. When I reached out, they rearranged themselves, forming patterns that felt familiar, as if they had always lived somewhere deep in my memory. Then I understood. The ship was listening. It had begun to speak the same language as the light within me. For days, maybe weeks, I studied it. I sang to it. Every note I hummed made the lights shift and respond, weaving melodies into code. If I struck a low tone, the engines rumbled softly. If I sang high and slow, the ship drifted upward, following my voice like a dream, obeying its dreamer. It was more than control. It was communion. I wasn't piloting anymore. I was participating. I remembered what the creature of light had said. "You are learning the language of creation." Maybe this was what it meant. One quiet cycle, I decided to test something. A nearby star glowed faintly ahead. Small, amber, nearly sleeping. "Hello there," I murmured, as though greeting a friend. I didn't expect an answer, but the hum in my chest shifted, aligning with a new tone. The ship's lights flickered, and the view outside shimmered. I sang a single, careful note, low, steady, filled with warmth. The star brightened, just a flicker at first, but then the light grew stronger, pulsing once, twice, in rhythm with my song. My hands trembled. I kept singing, letting the tone rise and fall, and the star answered. Each pulse of light carried a vibration that filled the cockpit, soft and resonant, like the heartbeat of something ancient waking after a long sleep. It wasn't language, not exactly, but I could feel its meaning. Gratitude, recognition. It was the same feeling I'd sensed in the garden, in the creature, in the whispering hum of the cosmos. The same song echoed again. Days turned into gentle rhythms of discovery. I drifted through constellations, singing softly, listening to the stars reply. Each one had its own tone, its own pulse. Some were bright and youthful, quick, playful rhythms. Others were slow and deep, like the steady breath of old giants dreaming in molten light. I learned that my voice could heal them. A dying star, dim and flickering, brightened when I sang the right melody. A chaotic nebula calmed its storms. The universe responded like a living body, and I was learning to soothe its heartbeat. But the more I gave, the more I felt something within me fading. It began as a softness in my chest, a dimming of the golden glow that had once danced beneath my skin. Each time I sang, I left a piece of that light behind. It didn't hurt. It felt right, but I could feel myself becoming lighter, less solid, like I was being gently erased by the music I loved. One evening, the word evening meant nothing here, but it felt like one. I came across a small, lonely planet. Its surface shimmered with ice and quiet seas. No lights, no cities, no life. Something about it called to me. I guided the ship down through its pale atmosphere, landing beside a frozen ocean. The air was thin, but breathable. The sky was a sea of violet stars. I stepped outside, and for the first time in cycles, felt gravity pull me gently to the ground. My boots crunched softly on the frost. The air smelled like silence. I walked to the edge of the ocean, where the ice reflected the stars above. The reflection was so perfect that I couldn't tell where the sky ended and the sea began. And there I sang a slow, low melody, part lullaby, part farewell. As I sang, the ice began to glow faintly beneath my feet. Ribbons of light spread outward in every direction, painting the ocean in shimmering gold and blue. The hum inside me deepened, and for a moment I felt everything. The stars, the planet, the spaces between them, all vibrating together in perfect harmony. Tears, if they were tears, rose to my eyes. They floated upward instead of falling, tiny glowing orbs that joined the stars above. I'm not sure what I'm becoming, I whispered to the sky, but thank you for letting me be part of this. Then, softly, I heard a voice, not from above, from within. You're not fading, it said. You're remembering. The glow beneath my skin flared, brighter than ever. My body felt weightless, every cell singing. You are returning to the source. The voice continued. You are what we all are, light that dreamed it was alone. I don't remember when I first felt it, that quiet pull, gentle as a tide beneath my thoughts. For countless cycles, I had drifted between suns, singing light into sleeping worlds, leaving pieces of myself behind like echoes. But now, the universe itself seemed to breathe a single word inside me, home. At first, I tried to ignore it. What was home for a wanderer made of dust and dream? Was it a planet? A ship? A voice I once knew? Or was it the place where silence finally felt like peace? The stars around me blurred into long ribbons of gold. As my vessel drifted through a current of dark matter, I let the hum of space fill me, slow, deep, endlessly patient. And in that hum, I heard her, Lyria, not her song, but her breath, the memory of warmth from when she had rested beside me in that garden of moons and silver leaves. It was faint, like a forgotten scent carried on wind, but it was there. Perhaps that was what home meant after all. Not a place, but a memory strong enough to light the dark. The stars outside grew softer, their glow turning to a dim lullaby of shifting blues. I closed my eyes and let the ship drift on its own, guided not by coordinates, but by instinct. I've been everywhere, I whispered, and yet I think I'm still lost. The console lights dimmed, responding to the tone of my voice like a heartbeat listening. I smiled. Maybe that's all right. Maybe being lost is how one learns the way. The universe didn't answer in words, but in a feeling, a warm, slow pulse that rose from the floor of the ship and wrapped around me like an embrace. It was telling me I wasn't alone. The stars shifted again, slowly, tenderly, like curtains parting at dawn. I felt their pull, an ancient rhythm older than galaxies. It wasn't gravity that guided me now. It was something deeper, something alive. I steered my vessel through the glimmering haze, and the starlight danced across the glass. The reflection of my face shimmered, half alien, half memory, eyes full of distance and wonder. For so long, I had been the watcher of worlds, but now I felt like one of them, fragile, hopeful, waiting for meaning to return. Ahead lay a blue star, familiar in a way that made my chest ache. Its light pulsed softly, and every pulse echoed inside me like a heartbeat. Could it be? Was this the same light that had once guided me home long ago? I closed my eyes, and suddenly I remembered the sound of rain. Rain. It's strange. The things memory chooses to keep, not the grand discoveries, not the comets or the nebulae I named after lost dreams, but the feeling of standing under a storm with someone who laughed instead of running for shelter. That someone was Lyria. Her hair had shimmered like starlight, even when drenched, and when she smiled, her eyes curved like crescent moons. We were explorers then, before I left my home planet to map the uncharted void. She stayed behind, promising she'd be waiting, and I promised I'd return before the third moon rose again. That was 1,000 moons ago. The rain I remembered wasn't real anymore. That world was gone, but the memory lived, folded neatly between my heartbeats. As I neared the blue star, my ship's sensors began to hum. It was a soft, rhythmic tone, almost like a lullaby. I had never heard that frequency before. It wasn't a distress signal, and it wasn't random static. It was music. I turned down the lights. In the soft dark, the hum grew clearer. A melody began to take shape, low, then high, then falling again, like a sigh wrapped in light. And then, through the hum came a voice, not words, but a resonance that trembled in my bones. It sounded almost like my name, Ilarion. My breath caught. It couldn't be. That name had not been spoken for centuries, not since I had left the cradle of my birth world. The hum pulsed again, and this time I followed it. Through the blue light, the outlines of a planet came into view. A shimmering orb, wrapped in clouds of silver and teal. Its atmosphere sparkled faintly, as if sprinkled with diamond dust. My ship drifted toward it, guided not by my hands, but by the music itself. When I entered orbit, I saw something impossible. A city, floating, half real, half reflection, rising from the ocean like a dream that refused to fade. Tall crystal spires stretched toward the clouds, each one glowing from within, their lights pulsing in rhythm with the song I'd been hearing. It was beautiful, too beautiful to be forgotten. This can't be real, I whispered, but deep down, I knew it was. This was my home, or rather, what remained of it. I descended through the upper clouds, my ship gliding like a leaf in the wind. Rain began to fall again, gentle, glimmering, alive. Each drop shimmered as it passed the viewport, carrying faint reflections of faces, voices, memories. It was as though the planet remembered me. When I stepped out, the air was soft and cool, tinged with the scent of wet stone and electricity. My feet touched ground that hummed beneath me, not solid rock, but woven light. And there, standing amidst the glowing rain, was a figure. She turned slowly, and though the centuries had bent time and space around us, I knew that face, the calm eyes, the silver hair that caught every stray beam of starlight. "Lyria," I whispered. She smiled. It was the same smile that once made the rain feel warm. "I knew you'd find your way back," she said. Her voice was soft, but it echoed across the water like a promise reborn. "I thought I'd lost you," I replied. My voice trembled, carrying the weight of every empty galaxy I'd crossed. "You were never lost," she said gently. "You were learning the stars, so you could finally see the path home." I wanted to speak, to tell her about the worlds I'd visited, the creatures I'd met, the loneliness that had followed me through time, but the words caught in my throat. Instead, I stepped forward, and she did the same. The rain between us shimmered, and for the first time in centuries, I felt warmth that wasn't from a star. We didn't need to speak. The silence said everything. We sat together on a ridge that overlooked the luminous sea. The waves below glowed softly with every movement, like liquid starlight breathing in rhythm with the night. "I built this place," she said quietly, her hand brushing the air, "and waited. Every dawn, every dusk, I knew you'd come." "After all this time?" I asked. She smiled again, eyes glistening. "Time doesn't move the same for those who love." I looked at her, and all the light I had ever chased across the galaxies suddenly felt pale compared to the glow in her eyes. For a long while, we simply sat there, letting the rain fall around us, letting the rhythm of the universe settle into peace. Later that night, as the moons rose, 3 of them, just as before, I realized the circle had finally closed. I had set out to explore the stars, searching for the unknown, believing that meaning was hidden among the distant suns. But meaning was here, in the quiet between heartbeats, in the warmth of her presence, in the rain that remembered our names. The journey wasn't about finding something new. It was about coming back to where I began, and seeing it for the first time. As the moons drifted higher, Lyria leaned against me. "You'll keep traveling," she said softly. "It's in your nature," I nodded. "Yes, but not alone anymore," she laughed, a sound like starlight breaking through clouds. And in that moment, I knew I had found what every explorer dreams of. A home that moves with you, wherever the stars lead. The rain began to fade. The city below shimmered with light, its reflections merging with the waves, until sky and sea became one. I stood, and she rose beside me. "Are you ready?" she asked. "Yes," I whispered. "For the first time, I am." Together, we stepped into the light. The sea parted before us like a mirror of glass, and as the stars opened above, I felt the pulse of the universe beating in perfect rhythm with my own heart. And so, I returned to the stars, not as a wanderer, not as a lonely traveler chasing light, but as a soul finally whole. For in every world, in every glimmer of rain or whisper of wind, I would carry her voice, her warmth, her song, and somewhere among the endless night, the universe smiled because even it knew that love was the brightest constellation of all. I don't remember when I first felt it, that quiet pull, gentle as a tide, beneath my thoughts. For countless cycles, I had drifted between suns, singing light into sleeping worlds, leaving pieces of myself behind, like echoes. But now, the universe itself seemed to breathe a single word inside me: home. At first, I tried to ignore it. What was home for a wanderer made of dust and dream? Was it a planet? A ship? A voice I once knew? Or was it the place where silence finally felt like peace? The stars around me blurred into long ribbons of gold. As my vessel drifted through a current of dark matter, I let the hum of space fill me, slow, deep, endlessly patient. And in that hum, I heard her, Lyria. Not her song, but her breath, the memory of warmth from when she had rested beside me in that garden of moons and silver leaves. It was faint, like a forgotten scent carried on wind, but it was there. Perhaps that was what home meant after all. Not a place, but a memory strong enough to light the dark. The stars outside grew softer, their glow turning to a dim lullaby of shifting blues. I closed my eyes and let the ship drift on its own, guided not by coordinates, but by instinct. I've been everywhere, I whispered, and yet I think I'm still lost. The console lights dimmed, responding to the tone of my voice like a heartbeat listening. I smiled. Maybe that's all right. Maybe being lost is how one learns the way. The universe didn't answer in words, but in a feeling, a warm, slow pulse that rose from the floor of the ship and wrapped around me like an embrace. It was telling me I wasn't alone. The star shifted again, slowly, tenderly, like curtains parting at dawn. I felt their pull, an ancient rhythm, older than galaxies. It wasn't gravity that guided me now. It was something deeper, something alive. I steered my vessel through the glimmering haze, and the starlight danced across the glass. The reflection of my face shimmered, half alien, half memory, eyes full of distance and wonder. For so long, I had been the watcher of worlds, but now I felt like one of them, fragile, hopeful, waiting for meaning to return. Ahead lay a blue star, familiar in a way that made my chest ache. Its light pulsed softly, and every pulse echoed inside me like a heartbeat. Could it be? Was this the same light that had once guided me home long ago? I closed my eyes, and suddenly I remembered the sound of rain. Rain. It's strange. The things memory chooses to keep, not the grand discoveries, not the comets or the nebulae I named after lost dreams, but the feeling of standing under a storm with someone who laughed instead of running for shelter. That someone was Lyria. Her hair had shimmered like starlight even when drenched, and when she smiled, her eyes curved like crescent moons. We were explorers then, before I left my home planet to map the uncharted void. She stayed behind, promising she'd be waiting, and I promised I'd return before the third moon rose again. That was 1,000 moons ago. The rain I remembered wasn't real anymore. That world was gone, but the memory lived, folded neatly between my heartbeats. As I neared the blue star, my ship's sensors began to hum. It was a soft, rhythmic tone, almost like a lullaby. I had never heard that frequency before. It wasn't a distress signal, and it wasn't random static. It was music. I turned down the lights. In the soft dark, the hum grew clearer. A melody began to take shape, low, then high, then falling again, like a sigh wrapped in light. And then, through the hum, came a voice, not words, but a resonance that trembled in my bones. It sounded almost like my name, Ilarion. My breath caught. It couldn't be. That name had not been spoken for centuries, not since I had left the cradle of my birth world. The hum pulsed again, and this time, I followed it. Through the blue light, the outlines of a planet came into view, a shimmering orb wrapped in clouds of silver and teal. Its atmosphere sparkled faintly, as if sprinkled with diamond dust. My ship drifted toward it, guided not by my hands, but by the music itself. When I entered orbit, I saw something impossible. A city, floating, half real, half reflection, rising from the ocean like a dream that refused to fade. Tall crystal spires stretched toward the clouds, each one glowing from within, their lights pulsing in rhythm with the song I'd been hearing. It was beautiful, too beautiful to be forgotten. This can't be real, I whispered, but deep down I knew it was. This was my home, or rather, what remained of it. I descended through the upper clouds, my ship gliding like a leaf in the wind. Rain began to fall again, gentle, glimmering, alive. Each drop shimmered as it passed the viewport, carrying faint reflections of faces, voices, memories. It was as though the planet remembered me. When I stepped out, the air was soft and cool, tinged with the scent of whetstone and electricity. My feet touched ground that hummed beneath me, not solid rock, but woven light. And there, standing amidst the glowing rain, was a figure. She turned slowly, and though the centuries had bent time and space around us, I knew that face, the calm eyes, the silver hair that caught every stray beam of starlight. Lyria, I whispered. She smiled. It was the same smile that once made the rain feel warm. I knew you'd find your way back, she said. Her voice was soft, but it echoed across the water like a promise reborn. I thought I'd lost you, I replied. My voice trembled, carrying the weight of every empty galaxy I'd crossed. You were never lost, she said gently. You were learning the stars, so you could finally see the path home. I wanted to speak, to tell her about the worlds I'd visited, the creatures I'd met, the loneliness that had followed me through time, but the words caught in my throat. Instead, I stepped forward, and she did the same. The rain between us shimmered, and for the first time in centuries, I felt warmth that wasn't from a star. We didn't need to speak. The silence said everything. We sat together on a ridge that overlooked the luminous sea. The waves below glowed softly with every movement, like liquid starlight, breathing in rhythm with the night. I built this place, she said quietly, her hand brushing the air, and waited. Every dawn, every dusk, I knew you'd come. After all this time, I asked. She smiled again, eyes glistening. Time doesn't move the same for those who love. I looked at her, and all the light I had ever chased across the galaxies suddenly felt pale compared to the glow in her eyes. For a long while, we simply sat there, letting the rain fall around us, letting the rhythm of the universe settle into peace. Later that night, as the moons rose, 3 of them, just as before, I realized the circle had finally closed. I had set out to explore the stars, searching for the unknown, believing that meaning was hidden among the distant suns. But meaning was here, in the quiet between heartbeats, in the warmth of her presence, in the rain that remembered our names. The journey wasn't about finding something new. It was about coming back to where I began and seeing it for the first time. As the moons drifted higher, Lyria leaned against me. "You'll keep traveling," she said softly. "It's in your nature," I nodded. "Yeah, but not alone anymore." She laughed, a sound like starlight breaking through clouds. And in that moment, I knew I had found what every explorer dreams of. A home that moves with you. Wherever the stars lead, the rain began to fade. The city below shimmered with light, its reflections merging with the waves until sky and sea became one. I stood, and she rose beside me. "Are you ready?" she asked. "Yes," I whispered. "For the first time, I am." Together, we stepped into the light. The sea parted before us like a mirror of glass, and as the stars opened above, I felt the pulse of the universe beating in perfect rhythm with my own heart. And so, I returned to the stars, not as a wanderer, not as a lonely traveler chasing light, but as a soul finally whole. For in every world, in every glimmer of rain or whisper of wind, I would carry her voice, her warmth, her song, and somewhere, among the endless night, the universe smiled, because even it knew that love was the brightest constellation of all. The stars outside my window have never looked so still. We've been floating for days, or perhaps months. Time loses meaning when space begins to hum inside your veins. The echoes of the singing nebula still linger in the corners of my mind, faint and soft, like the heartbeat of a dream that refuses to fade. Lyria sleeps nearby, her breathing steady, her hair lit faintly by the shimmer of a nearby moon. I watch her and think about everything we've seen: the blue storms of Theris, the crystal lakes of Juno, the burning sands that sang when the wind blew right. Every world changed me, but this quiet, this silence after the symphony, feels like the final lesson. It's strange how the vastness of the universe can feel so small when someone you love is beside you. The nebula's song still whispers through my dreams. Sometimes I wake up hearing its voice. Keep listening, traveler. Every heartbeat is a song. At first, I thought it was memory, but tonight, as I sit here, I realize it's still calling. Outside, the horizon of stars bends slightly, just enough to tell me we're near the edge of something unseen. A soft silver glow rises from nowhere, painting the ship in moonlight that shouldn't exist. My heart slows, my breath evens. It feels like being watched by the universe again, not in warning, but in welcome. Lyria stirs and opens her eyes. "You feel it too, don't you?" she murmurs. "Yes," I whisper. "It's guiding us," she smiles, the way only someone who's lived through galaxies can. "Then let's follow." We let the light pull us. The engines barely hum. It's like the ship is gliding on thought alone. The glow grows brighter, and I see something impossible ahead. A sphere, vast and perfect, suspended in nothing. It's not a planet. It's not a star. It's light itself, shaped into a world. Rivers of gold run across its surface like veins. Cities of clouds drift above oceans of liquid silver. Towers of radiant crystal reach upward, and from them pour streams of soft, melodic energy, like waterfalls made of sound. Lyria breathes out in awe. "Is this home?" I can't answer. All I know is that it feels familiar, as though I've been here in dreams I've long forgotten. The ship descends gently, guided by unseen hands. When we land, The ramp lowers into silence, and then warmth. A light wind touches my face, scented like dawn and memory. The ground beneath glows faintly under our feet, soft and yielding, as if the world itself recognizes us. Everywhere I look, beings made of light move gracefully, some tall and slender, some radiant and small, each one shimmering with hues that shift like emotions. One of them approaches us. Their voice is not spoken, but felt. Welcome, Ilarion. Welcome, Lyria. You've found the eternal lumen. The eternal lumen, I ask? The birthplace of stars, the being answers. Where all journeys end, and all beginnings sleep. We walk among them, guided through shimmering valleys and glowing rivers. The beings tell us stories, not with words, but with bursts of light that unfold in the air like dreams. We see memories, the first stars forming from the breath of time, the first worlds spinning out of darkness, the first travelers who reached this place and became its guardians. Lyria's hand finds mine as we watch a vision of 1,000 galaxies blooming like flowers in slow motion. Her eyes glisten. Do you think this is where we're meant to stay? She asks quietly. I look at her, at the way the light paints her face, soft and endless. Yes, I whisper, but I think staying doesn't mean stopping. That night, if nights exist here, we rest beneath a sky that sings. The constellations move slowly, dancing like soft ripples in water. Lyria lies close to me, her voice barely above a sigh. Do you ever think, she says, that we were chosen? Maybe, I murmur, or maybe we just listened when the stars called. She smiles and closes her eyes. I listen to her breathing and the faint hum beneath the world's surface. It feels alive, as if this planet breathes with us. And slowly, as I drift toward sleep, I feel something changing inside. The nebulous song grows louder again, this time not from outside, but from within me. It rises from my heartbeat, from the rhythm of my breath, from the warmth of Lyria's hand resting over mine. I realize then what this entire journey has meant. The universe doesn't speak in grand miracles. It speaks in connection. Every star, every voice, every life is a verse in one unending song. We were never meant to reach the center of everything, only to remember that we've always been part of it. When I open my eyes again, the world has changed. The light beings surround us, glowing brighter than before. Their leader speaks again, their tone soft but resolute. You have carried the song far, Ilarion. You have listened and loved without fear. Now, you must decide. Return to your path among the living stars, or stay and become part of the light. I look at Lyria. She meets my gaze, smiling through quiet tears. I don't want to lose this, she says softly. But maybe this isn't the end. Maybe it's just another kind of beginning. The beings extend their hands, light flowing like rivers between their fingers. If you choose to stay, they whisper, your memories will become melody, your soul a note in the eternal song. The universe will know your name through light. I close my eyes, torn between two eternities, the stars I've yet to see and the peace that already holds me. And then I feel Lyria's hand in mine again, warm, trembling. She leans close, her voice no louder than a breath. Ilarion, she says, whatever we choose, let's choose it together. The words settle deep inside me, like starlight on water. I squeeze her hand and nod. Together, we step into the light. For a moment, everything dissolves. The world, the ship, The sky, gone. There's only warmth and brightness and the sound of thousands of voices merging into one. I can't tell if I'm falling or rising. I can't tell if I'm still me. Then the light wraps around me, gentle as a lullaby, and I hear it. The same melody that began this journey. The same song that carried us across the void. Only now, I understand the words. You are not a traveler through the stars. You are the light they travel through. When the glow softens, I find myself standing once more on the deck of my ship. But something is different. Outside, the stars are brighter, closer, alive. I can hear them, each one humming softly, each one singing a name. Lyria stands beside me, radiant. Her eyes hold galaxies within them. We didn't stay, she whispers. But we didn't leave either. I smile. We became the song, she nods. And as the ship sails silently into the glittering dark, I know the journey will never end, because we are now part of it. The nebulous hum rises again, soft and slow, and I let my eyes close, feeling the music cradle me. Sleep comes easily this time, not as escape, but as return. And as I drift away, I hear the stars whisper one last time, like a parent tucking the universe into bed. Rest now, traveler. You are home.